Hi, again. Welcome to the second episode of my podcast, Cheers to My 20s. And today's drink is, drumroll please, water. You might be wondering, why are you drinking water? Doesn't the word drink imply some type of beverage or, fizzy drink or something? Um, First of all, free Palestine. And apparently, Pepsi owns all of the drinks, I guess, companies, brands in the market. And so it was just easier for me to drink water. And if you're wondering which type of water am I drinking, it's Ilano. They have the Palestinian flag. Sorry. They have the they have the Palestinian flag on their bottle, so I'm assuming they support Palestine, but that could just be a marketing tactic and they're secretly owned by Pepsi. I wouldn't know, but I'm trying and keep boycotting. And again, just to say, like, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite or anything. Have I drank one or two bottles of Pepsi in the last 6 months? Yes, but it's wrong and I shouldn't, and we should be boycotting. So yeah. Um okay. Today's topic is friendships. And I'm so excited to talk about this because I just feel like I have a lot to say. Again, I'm a yapper and I'm just excited, to share my thoughts that nobody asked for, but this is my podcast, so I get to do and say what I want. Also, side note, um remember how in the last podcast or episode I said that I will be speaking both Arabic and English. So في الحلقة دي هتكلم both عربي وإنجليزي. Again, because I'm Sudani, obviously my Arabic dialect is going to be Sudanese, so like I don't know. If you're open to listening to that, I guess keep watching. If you're not, you can click off. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Okay, friendships. Where do we start? First of all, I just want to say shout out to all my friends. I mean, I feel like more specifically my close friendships or like my best friends have given my life a lot of meaning, and just I love y'all, shout out. المهم, I don't know why that shout out sounded like how Ussa says shout out, but I really like that, so I'm yoinking it. المهم, types of friendships. طيب, in my opinion, okay, there's different types of friendships. I don't think like one of them is more important than the other. Like I think they're like, to have a well-rounded life, you need different types of friends. Tamam. I think the type number one is surface level friendships or situational friendships. And I think they're just as important as any type of friendship. And surface level friendships slash like situational friendships, so those are the friends that you make usually because you go to a certain school or university or job, and they're the kind of friendships that are like a level deeper from acquaintances who like you hang out with, you have a good time. It's usually the main criteria for this type of friendship is usually like just good vibes, people you click with, who are charismatic or whatever, people you just have a good time with. And they're very important, sometimes you just want to have a good time and they're there, or you guys share like, I don't know, like you just share a certain vibe and you just, go out with them. The second type of friendship, and I would say those are like closer to you than the surface level friendships, are friends, um friends are very important, obviously. And I would say with this level you share more than just like a physical space or like an obligation. I might say like friends are people who you would go out of your way to hang out with, like who you didn't, I guess, necessarily meet through work or friendships, or like people who you would still try to see even if you changed jobs or even if you switched schools or high schools or whatever. um And I would say these kinds of friendships are very important. Those are people who you share a little bit more than just like vibes with. You usually have known them for a bit longer. You have a closer bond with them. Maybe you share like similar ways of living, if that makes sense. Like ways of living in the sense that you have similar ideologies when it comes to how you want to live your lives. You usually, like, if both of you guys are spontaneous, or both of you guys are like, planners, or like, you don't have to be similar to them, you don't have to be the same person. But those are people, I guess the only distinction between this category, I guess, and the surface level friendship is that those are people who you would still try to stay in contact with, even if you switch schools or work, or the situation that bonded you guys together. And then my favorite category is the close friends. And يا اخوان انتوا ما فاهمين how much I love my close friendships. And again, I think it's because of my personality. Like, I like it when my friendships are like deeper, like I like deeper connections. Like, I want to know how you ended up this way, or like, why does your mind work this way, or when you made that decision or choice, what childhood memory or trauma caused you to behave in that certain way. It's giving psychological analysis. It's giving, I want to read your mind type of vibe. And I love those friendships because it's like, know that person, and it's so cool. And I think this level of friendship requires the highest standards. Like, you could, I guess, lower, I guess, not standards, I would say, but like lower the requirements you would want in a person, um for surface level friendships, right? Like, surface level friendships, we don't have to agree on the same political issues, like pro choice or pro, what was the term, pro life or pro choice. Like, we don't have to agree on that. We just like laugh together and everyone, goes on with their days. But close friendships, I would say morals, ethics, values are very, very important when it comes to this category, because I feel like if you share the same morals, ethics, values with your best friend, and ways of living the same way you do with your friends, it just creates this level of understanding of like, if they did a certain thing, right, or they said a certain thing, both of you guys would understand why that happened. So I guess morals, ethics, and values are very important in close friendships. Another thing that's so, so, so important, not just in close friendships, in general, right, all types of friends, all types of relationships in general, is communication. Oh my god, like the amount of issues, right, that I've heard of in relationships in general, family, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever it is, that could just be solved by communication. Just talk, please talk, okay? I don't know why I switched to a New York and New York. How do you say New Yorkian accent? Like, how what's her name from Wolf of Wall Street? What's her name? She goes like talk in New York. Anyways, sorry, that was a side tangent. And him, who was I talking about? Oh my god. Why did I start a podcast? Anyways, I was talking about communication. Okay, communication. It's so important. Like, and I think not only is communication important, I think understanding goes hand in hand with communication. Like, I think communication is a mutual responsibility. Just because one person is not communicating doesn't mean it's only their fault. And let me explain. So, for one person to feel comfortable to communicate if a certain thing annoyed them or hurt their feelings, um, I would say it's the other person's responsibility to make them feel like they would be understanding if they brought up any topic. And so, like, and if I'm a person who, مثلا, let's say you hurt my feelings, and then I come to you and I'm like, hey, this thing you did hurt my feelings, and you're like, why are you so sensitive? Why are you so weird like that? I didn't even do anything. You're the one, like, basically a gaslighter and a manipulator, or someone who's just like not open to criticism. And I get it. It's all stems from insecurities. Makes sense. It's fine. But it's just not healthy, and it makes the other person just never talk or bring up anything ever, because they're like, oh, well, they're just not going to listen to me, or they're just going to dismiss it or diminish it, you know? So I would say it's very, very important for the other person to be understanding and open to constructive criticism, or not even criticism. It's just like, oh, this thing you did hurt me, and I know you didn't mean it, but it did. And yeah, and then the other person should be like, oh, I'm sorry. How can I change that? Easy peasy, you know. I know it's difficult sometimes, certain topics are complicated, it's not this simple, but I think that's very, very important. And you know what, for me at least, the thing I love the most about my close friendships, or like best friends, is that I feel like I can just be 100% honest with them. Like, and not only can I be 100% honest with them, I can also be 100% myself with them, knowing the fact that they will never judge me, or even if they do judge me, which is fair, it would be if I did something wrong or messed up or I hurt someone else, you know, and they would keep me in check. Again, another very important point in close friendships, they shouldn't be your yes people. I mean, okay, yes, having a yes man or a yes woman, whatever, right? It's important. Like, sure, your friends should hype you up, whatever, right? Encourage you and all that. But when you're acting like an asshole, they should be able to call you out and be like, you know what, that's kind of messed up and you shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, you know what? Yes, my feelings are hurt, but I was in the wrong. So, you know what? You're right. And I should do better. And that's what I love about close friendships, is that, again, when you share a similar moral, ethical, whatever values, both of you can pinpoint when the other person acts a certain way outside of those morals and values that they hold, you know, and you can call that out. And I think that's really special. So, yeah, close friendships, morals, ethics, values, very important. Communication is very important. Again, just feeling comfortable around them. I think that's so basic. Like, oh my God, I just feel like if you're even friends with someone, okay, surface level friendship, you don't have to, like, I guess, yes, you should still be comfortable around them, but since you guys are not talking about anything deep or like real, you know, it's just surface level, you know, having fun, okay, it's okay if you guys like disagree on certain things, like, you know what, it's fine. But when it comes to friendships and close friendships, I think you should be 100% comfortable being around them, and you should be 100% comfortable being yourself around them specifically, right? If they make you feel annoyed, or if they make you feel insecure, or if they make you feel angry, why stay friends with them? I just think that a basic requirement in friendships and close friendships is just feeling comfortable around them and being yourself around them. And, you know, that's just like basics, you know? And I don't think anyone should compromise their comfort just to stay friends with a certain person. And let me give an example for this. So, I used to be friends with this friend group, right? And I love my friends, right? We vibe, they're funny, they have amazing personalities, we bond, you know, we click together. It's an amazing friendship, right? And then after a while, they started being friends with this other group of people, right? And specific people in that other friend group really just, I did not align with them well, if that makes sense. Like, they just showed certain moral characters that just don't align with me, and I was like, they kind of made me feel uncomfortable, you know? Certain comments they would do, certain actions they would do, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And again, I'm being 100% honest, you can't really control who your friends befriend. That's not your place to decide, right? You can only choose your friends, but you don't have the right to be like, oh, you can't befriend this person and you can't befriend that person. Like, you can't really control who your friends befriend. That's just a given, right? And so obviously it wasn't my place to be like, oh, you shouldn't be friends with those people, because you know what? That's their choice and it's their life, right? But at the same time, if I ever wanted to see my friends, I would have to see their friends, right? And I would be put in a lot of situations in which I was really, really uncomfortable, and I just had to sit there and take it, right? And that was very unhealthy, right? It was very like, for my well-being, it made me really uncomfortable. So I had a choice: do I see my friends, or do I feel uncomfortable? And after a while, I was like, you know what, it's not worth it. Like, I just think, like, whenever it's just me and my friends, it's great. We're having a good time, we're vibing. But then the second it's like their friends are also there, certain people in that other friend group would just make me feel uncomfortable. And so I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? I just won't make myself feel uncomfortable just to see my friends, if that makes sense. Feeling comfortable on my friend around my friends is just a basic, like, a basic requirement in a friendship, right? um and so after a while, I would just only see my friends. And I did tell them that, by the way. It's not that I never communicated the fact that I was uncomfortable with certain behaviors that the friends they were befriending made me feel, but they didn't really still change anything. And that's fine. I'm not telling them to cut them off or anything. Like, that's not my place. But I just ended up seeing my friends less. It sucked, but at least I wasn't uncomfortable. And so I would only see my friends when it was just me and them, and that was fine. So that kind of whole situation taught me, in no, I don't know, like, you don't have to force anything. You shouldn't really force it. When a certain friendship or a certain situation is making you feel uncomfortable, communicate, first of all, but then also prioritize your comfort and your well being as well as you would other people. Does that make sense? I think it does. Um, it just taught me a lesson. And I'm still friends with my friends. I still see them, I still talk to them. We're great. I'm just not uncomfortable anymore, and it was fine. The next topic is girl versus guy friendships. And again, we live in a society and, might I add, a conservative society, right? Sudan is a conservative society. Like, that's not newsflash. But and, like, obviously that's fine, but that implies certain differences when it comes to interacting with guys and when it comes to interacting with girls, right? For me, at least, right, girl friendships have just always been so much fun. Like, I just think, like, girl friendships are so, like, cool and fun and pure and interesting and just, like, full of, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it they read, like, all of my girl friendships have just been so amazing, I guess, for the most part, right? Especially my close friendships. Like, they're just, like, people who just get you. And I think, especially since we live in a conservative society and all of that, right? It's just, there's so many less barriers when it comes to making girl friendships. Because, like, if you're talking to a girl and you're like, oh, you're so pretty, and, like, I love when you do this, and blah 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 blah, and I love this talent or whatever, right? It's implied that you want to be friends with her. It's implied that you think she's really cool. It's implied that, since you're literally saying all of those things, right? And it's just, there's less filters, and I'm just 100% myself, and, like, very affectionate, and like, just myself, and like, I don't know how to explain it. But then when it comes to guy friendships, right? There's certain, like, boundaries, and I understand why they're there. Like, after a lot of experiences, I understand why, um with guys you can't really be that complimentary, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, you can't be like, oh my god, you're so cool and you're so pretty and I like your talent. And because what happens is they're gonna be like, oh, she wants me, ooh, she's in love with me, like, ooh, like, I got hoes, like, literally, like, that's what ends up happening. I want to say 90% of the time. And I never understood that concept. Like, I never understood the concept of, you can't really treat guys the same way you do with the girlies. Like, I don't know why. I assumed I'm just gonna be like 100% myself and be like complimentary and like, and you know how I said I love creating deeper connections. So once I vibe with someone and I'm like, oh, they're like close friend, best friend material, I put in active effort to get to know them and understand like why they think a certain way and why their personality is a certain way. And so when you do that, you're so interested and obviously interested in getting to know a guy like that. They kind of assume that you kind of like them sometimes, most of the times. But with a girl, it's just like, oh, she wants to be close friends and best friends, and that's amazing. Um, and I'm not saying that guys and girls cannot be friends, but I genuinely believe that they can't be best friends. Like, I just think that, like, I just feel like you can have guy friends, but I think again, when you really think about it, it's it's easier to maintain that friendship if it's surface level. Because if you try to get to know a guy the same way you do with a girl, right, and get to know their personalities and create a deeper connection, you 9 times out of 10, one of the two people is gonna catch feelings, and then the friendship is ruined, or you start dating, I guess. I don't know. But from an Islamic point of view, like, and I get it, I genuinely do. I just think even if you do make a guy friend, I think keeping it surface level, again, the surface level thing of like, oh, we just vibe, but the second it goes deeper than that, your personalities and your hobbies, and you start getting into deeper topics and getting to know them on a deeper level, or trying to become best friends, that's when things like kind of go downhill, and that's just something a belief that was instilled in me from experiences, and also from, again, a religious point of view, right? And that's fine, like, but at least for me, from my personal experience, I never really had any guy friends or close friends, because it's just like, I just think girls are most of the times more interesting than guys are. And like, I'm not saying this in like a misogynistic kind of way, but I just shared more similar interests and vibes and personalities. I was closer, or like saw myself in a lot of girls more than I did with guys, if that makes sense. Like, it was so much easier for me to build connections and relate and bond with girls than I did with guys. Like, because I feel like there's a certain level of understanding, and a certain level of like, there's less boundaries, as I said, in getting to know girls. And so it's just like, I've had amazing friendships, and friend groups, and so it was just easier for me to make friends with girls than I did with guys. And that's okay. I mean, it works for me, I guess, when it comes again to a religious point of view, right? I'm just staying halal or whatever, but yeah, and it's not that I'm not open to talking to guys or not, but I think, for me at least, all of the friendship betrayals that I've experienced were usually because of guys, and I think a guy friendship betrayal can get so much worse than a girl friendship betrayal. And when I'm saying this, I mean, like, for example, either they turn out to be misogynistic or a harasser, or they hurt one of my friends before, like, you know feelings, not physically. Trigger warning. It wasn't physical abuse, but I'm just saying, like, it's just, I think, like, the worst I had the worst experiences that I had with girls was probably like, they mean girled me or bullied me or something. And even in those cases, I'm like, I didn't really care what they thought of me. I didn't really care their opinion of me was, so it was easier to ignore it. But like, when a guy is like disrespected a friend of mine, I'm like, bye. Like, it's just, I don't know. also, again, I have a very like low tolerance for, especially when it comes to like morals and values, right? Like if they turn out to be a horrible person, not necessarily a horrible person, again, people aren't black and white, there's gray as well. But like if they turn out to just like treat people in a bad way, or they don't respect women, or like, I'm just like, why entertain that? I'm like, yeah, it was nice getting to know you, bye, but I understand why some girls are only friends with guys, because I understand that logic. Like sometimes it's not just because they're pick me's or whatever. It's genuinely sometimes because they had past trauma or experiences with girls who mean girled them, or who like hurt them in the past or bullied them in the past, right? And so they build up this wall, or kind of this defense mechanism, where they just make friendships with guys because they're like, oh, they're not gonna hurt me the same way those girls did, right? Again, it's the same kind of mentality when it comes to me, at least. I would just say, like, through my life experiences, I ended up being just such a girl's girl. Like, and it's not that girls who are only friends with guys can't be girls' girls. Obviously, they can. But I'm talking about, like, me personally. I just, like, value my friendships with women so much more than I do with men. Like, something that will never happen. Like, honestly, clip this and hold me to this statement for the rest of my life. I would never lose a friend, like a woman, right? Like a girlfriend over a guy. Ever. Like, that's just something that's so crazy. Like, I would, like, bro, like, you know what? Like, nah. I don't know. I just think like navigating guy friendships and girl friendships is a very slippery slope, and it's very like, it's more complicated, I would say, right? It's definitely not the same, because I used to approach both with the same energy, and that did not end well. And so there's definitely more boundaries, more restrictions when it comes to being friends with guys, and for a good reason, by the way, for a really good reason. And I think Islam kind of, you know, like got it right, like I just, like, I used to not understand, like, oh, why are there so many boundaries? But honestly, after like hearing about my other friends experiences and reading more about it, it makes so much sense. Like, because honestly, in society, when there's a guy and a girl friendship and something goes wrong, who does society blame? Yeah, the woman. Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I think those boundaries are set there for a reason, and they do protect us women. Like, I think they do. And so I just think I'm trying to abide by them more now. um Obviously, I still do have guy friendships and all of that, but again, they're usually surface level, or not as deep or intimate as my girl friendships. And yeah, so that was all for this episode. I wish if I could speak more. I have so many opinions and thoughts, and uh but and I wanted to feature one of my best friends in this episode to like hear her opinion on something or whatever, but I don't think like I have the technology to do that yet. And there's a lot of tech issues. I've been trying to get my podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but there's a lot of technical issues. But hopefully by next week, it's gonna be fixed. And yeah, but so far you can find my podcast on Anghami and YouTube if you want to see the video version of the podcast. And I hope you guys like this episode. I know صراحة أنا كان مفترض أتكلم بالعربي في الحلقة دي. يا إخوان والله عينه أنا يعني عشت حياتي كلها في السودان، طيب، وأنا لو دايرة ممكن الحلقة كلها أتكلم بالسوداني وكل حاجة، لكن I'm just more comfortable إني أتكلم بالإنجليزي، وما أفلهم ولا أي حاجة، يعني trust me it's not. لكن شنو I'm just like comfortable speaking in English، بحس إني بقدر أعبر زيادة، لكن برضو في مصطلحات كده برضو يعني بدخلها بالسوداني to like they just mean more, if that makes sense. But maybe next episode هحاول أتكلم سوداني زيادة. But honestly أنا like يعني ما دايرة أختار لغة أتكلم بيها، دايرة بس يعني كده أكون على طبيعتي. and then لو جات الحلقة بالعربي جات بالعربي، لو جات بالإنجليزي جات بالإنجليزي. like ما دايرة to restrict myself to a certain language, because again I'm making this podcast for myself, for my future self, so I just wanna like اخد راحتي, if that makes sense. But also it's difficult إني اخد راحتي when it's like weird. يا اخوي انت ما فاهمين، انا قاعد اتكلم في اوضتي براي، اتكلم مع كاميرا و like زي المجنونة يعني، فاهميني؟ it's such a awkward dynamic situation, to speak to a camera كده مع روحك. And it's really difficult to be myself, when it's like you're trying to look presentable لكن في نفس الوقت ما تتكلم كتير، لكن في نفس الوقت ما don't stutter، لكن في نفس الوقت like it's just a lot of things. And the oh my god إخوان انتوا ما فاهمين. أنا I'm gonna make a whole episode about the struggles of making a podcast، لأنه بجد يعني زيتي طلع. المهم next episode إن شاء الله حتكلم سوداني زيادة. الحلقة دي شوية I was whitewashed، لكن عملوا رايحين. And I don't know, I appreciate you guys for watching, even though like maybe 10 people will watch this, but like I love you. Thank you for listening to me yap for 30 minutes. I didn't say anything important. Ooh, it's fine. And those were my thoughts on friendships. There's so many more things I could have talked about, like one-sided friendships and I don't know, toxic friendships. Oh my god. I could have talked about so much more, and I wanted to get more personal and tell personal stories. Like, and that's scary. Like, I don't want to overshare, but maybe next episode. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Just this is episode 2. Yani, we have a lot of time to get to know each other and like, tell stories. Next episode, I'm thinking of like telling spicy, crazy stories and gossipy, I don't condone gossip. Lakin, I can still share personal stories without really like mentioning people's names and whatever. بس المهم, I hope I hope you guys really enjoyed this podcast episode. المهم, whatever. And stay tuned for episode 3. I think it might be about relationships, perhaps. Get into a spicy topic. Watch me give the most like plain tame takes in the next episode. لكن اعمل الكليك بيت اهم شيء. stay tuned و I love you guys ورمضان كريم. تصوموا وتفطروا على خير و see you guys in the next episode. Bye.